Dr. Elena Santos stared at the medical readings on her tablet, her dark eyes narrowing as she compared them to yesterday's results. The patient's genetic structure had changed again, but not in any way that indicated disease or degradation. If anything, the changes looked purposeful. Dr. Santos. The nurse's voice pulled her attention away from the screen. Mr. Chen in room 204 is, well, you should see for yourself. Elena hurried down the sterile hospital corridor, her footsteps echoing against the polished floors. When she entered the room, she stopped dead in her tracks. Where her elderly patient with advanced lung cancer had been lying yesterday, there was now a young-looking man with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal light. "Mr. Chen," she asked cautiously. The man turned to face her, his eyes now a startling shade of violet. "Dr. Santos," he said, his voice unchanged despite his dramatic transformation. "I feel extraordinary. The pain is gone. I can breathe better than I have in decades." Elena approached slowly, medical scanner in hand. The readings were impossible. Mr. Chen's cancerous tumors had completely vanished, replaced by what appeared to be enhanced lung tissue capable of filtering out toxins and processing oxygen with unprecedented efficiency. "This is the third case this week," she muttered, more to herself than to her patient. "But the first one this dramatic." Over the next few hours, similar reports began flooding in from hospitals worldwide. People with chronic illnesses suddenly developing bizarre but beneficial mutations. Children with genetic disorders spontaneously healing overnight. The elderly reverting to peak physical condition. In her office that evening, Elena compiled her findings into a secure database she shared with a select group of fellow researchers. The patterns were undeniable. These weren't random mutations. They all seemed to address specific needs or weaknesses in each individual, as if their bodies had suddenly gained the ability to rewrite their own genetic code. Dr. Santos. Her computer screen lit up with an incoming video call from Dr. James Morrison, her former mentor now working at the CDC. "Are you seeing this? The targeted mutations?" "Yes. I've documented 15 cases personally." "It's not just medical cases anymore," Morrison said, his face grave. "We're getting reports of healthy people developing adaptations. A group of trapped miners in chill developed bioluminescence and enhanced strength. A firefighter in Australia suddenly became fireproof during a rescue." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This is worldwide, global, and accelerating. Morrison paused, glancing over his shoulder before continuing in a lower voice. "Elena, we found something in the genetic samples. Markers that couldn't have evolved naturally. Someone, or something, has been experimenting on us." Before Elena could respond, her tablet began buzzing with urgent notifications. New cases were pouring in faster than ever. But more importantly, satellite networks were tracking multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Objects that didn't match any known human spacecraft. "James," she said slowly, "I don't think this was an experiment gone wrong. I think it was preparation for something bigger." "What do you mean?" "These changes, they're too perfect, too adaptive. What if someone was trying to trigger human evolution? To see how we'd respond to genetic manipulation?" She looked out her office window at the darkening sky. "And what if they're coming to check their results?" A loud boom shook the hospital building, and Elena watched as strange lights began descending from the clouds. Humanity was about to meet its geneticists, but she had a feeling they weren't going to find the weakened test subjects they expected. In her pocket, her phone buzzed with another notification. Mr. Chen had just escaped from his room by flying through the window. His silvery skin had developed into something resembling organic armor, and he wasn't the only one. All across the hospital, patients were manifesting new abilities. Elena looked down at her own hands, noticing for the first time a faint iridescent shimmer just beneath her skin. Whatever was coming, humanity wasn't going to face it as helpless victims. They were going to face it as something new, something that had taken manipulation and turned it into mastery. The experiment had worked, just not in the way its designers had intended. Humanity hadn't been weakened. They'd been awakened. The secure bunker beneath the CDC headquarters had never been so crowded. Dr. Elena Santos stood before a wall of screens, each displaying different manifestations of human transformation from around the globe. Behind her, representatives from various world governments and scientific institutions watched in stunned silence. "It's not random mutation," Elena explained, highlighting specific genetic sequences. "The changes are responsive, adaptive. People aren't just transforming. They're evolving to meet specific challenges or threats." A military officer stepped forward, his uniform bearing the insignia of the Joint Chiefs. Like these, he tapped a command into his tablet, and new footage appeared on the main screen. A squad of soldiers, cornered by one of the alien landing craft, had transformed in unison. Their skin had become reflective, perfectly deflecting the aliens' energy weapons. Another clip showed a group of civilians developing chameleonic abilities to hide from alien scout drones. "Exactly," Elena nodded. "But here's what's fascinating. The transformations are becoming more controlled. Watch this." She played footage from her hospital. A nurse, Maria Chen, stood calmly in front of the camera. Over the course of 30 seconds, her body shifted through 3 distinct forms, first developing gills and webbed limbs, then reverting to human form, then manifesting wings and enhanced visual organs. Each transformation was smooth, purposeful, and completely under her control. "They're learning," Dr. Morrison commented from his seat at the conference table. "The first transformations were reactive, instinctual. Now people are figuring out how to direct them." The room erupted in concerned murmurs. A Chinese scientist raised her hand. "But what are the aliens doing? They must have expected this." Elena shook her head. "I don't think they did. Based on the data we intercepted, they expected their genetic modifications to destabilize our DNA, to make us more susceptible to control. Instead," she gestured to another screen, where a teenager in Seoul was demonstrating the ability to interface directly with computer systems, his consciousness reaching through networks at the speed of thought. "Instead, they gave us the keys to our own evolution," Morrison finished. A thunderous explosion rocked the bunker. Emergency lights flashed as reports flooded in. The aliens had launched a coordinated attack on major population centers. But the footage showing the human response left everyone in the room speechless. In New York, office workers transformed into beings of living steel, forming human shields to protect evacuation routes. In Mumbai, street vendors developed the ability to generate electromagnetic pulses, disabling alien tech with a thought. A group of school children in Lagos manifested collective consciousness, coordinating complex defensive maneuvers with perfect synchronization. "They thought they were creating weapons," Elena said softly, watching the scenes unfold. "Instead, they created catalysts. Every attack, every threat, just gives us more opportunities to adapt." Her own transformation had stabilized now. She could feel the enhanced neural pathways in her brain, allowing her to process and analyze data at unprecedented speeds. Around the room, others were changing too. Subtle alterations optimizing them for their roles in the emerging crisis. Dr. Santos, one of the military officers, called out, his voice urgent. "We're getting reports of people, sharing adaptations, teaching others how to transform." Elena smiled. This was what made humans different from their would-be conquerors. The aliens had tried to impose evolution from outside, never understanding that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to learn, to share, to build upon each advancement collectively. "Get me a secure channel to every major population center," she instructed. "It's time we started coordinating these transformations. The aliens wanted to see how we'd evolve. Let's show them evolution at its finest." As she prepared to broadcast, Elena caught her reflection in one of the dark screens. Her eyes now held a subtle bioluminescence, and faint patterns shifted beneath her skin, the visible signs of her body's enhanced ability to process and transmit information. She wasn't just a doctor anymore. She was becoming something new, just like everyone else. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They had studied human biology, human genetics, even human history. But they had failed to understand human nature, the indomitable spirit that turned every challenge into an opportunity, every setback into a stepping stone. And now, that spirit was about to show them exactly what unleashed human potential could do. The alien mothership hung in low orbit like a dark star, its surface rippling with strange energies. From her position in the transformed ruins of what had once been Singapore's Marina Bay, Elena watched the tactical feeds stream across her enhanced vision. Humanity was ready. All adaptation centers report ready, came the thought voice of Colonel Sarah Chen, her consciousness reaching out through the global network of evolved human minds. The former nurse had become one of their most effective military leaders, her ability to coordinate multiple transformed units making her invaluable. Begin Operation Prometheus. Elena broadcast, her enhanced neural pathways distributing the command globally in microseconds. Across the planet, humanity's response unfolded with devastating precision. In orbit, astronauts who had evolved vacuum-adapted forms and the ability to manipulate gravitational fields began systematically dismantling the smaller alien vessels. Their movements were coordinated by a collective consciousness formed by a group of chess grandmasters whose minds had evolved to process multidimensional strategy. They're responding, Sarah reported, as alien dropships began descending through the atmosphere, exactly as predicted. Elena nodded, watching through the shared vision of their orbital units. The aliens' tactics were sophisticated but rigid, unable to adapt to the constantly evolving human response. They had expected to find chaos. Instead, they found an unprecedented level of coordination. In major cities worldwide, the scene in Singapore was being replicated. Humans who had developed energy manipulation abilities formed protective barriers while others, adapted for combat in ways that defied conventional physics, engaged the alien forces directly. Each encounter taught them more, sparked new adaptations. Dr. Santos. A new voice cut through the tactical chatter. We've broken through their encryption. You need to see this. The data flowed directly into Elena's enhanced consciousness. The aliens, the architects, as they called themselves, had been conducting similar experiments across multiple galaxies, seeking species they could mold into compliant servants. Their genetic modifications were meant to create controllable mutations, making populations dependent on their advanced technology for survival. They didn't account for human consciousness. Elena realized, watching as another group of defenders manifested new abilities mid-battle. They thought DNA was just code to be rewritten. They never understood it's more like a conversation. A massive explosion lit up the sky as one of the aliens' largest vessels succumbed to a coordinated attack. The defenders had adapted the ability to generate controlled fusion reactions, turning the ship's own power source against it. But more importantly, they had immediately shared this new capability with other resistance cells globally. Elena. Sarah's thought voice carried a note of urgency. We're detecting massive energy buildup in the mothership. They're preparing to deploy their primary weapon. Through their shared consciousness, Elena could feel the fear and determination of billions. The weapon was designed to trigger catastrophic mutations, a last-ditch effort to destroy what they couldn't control. But even as the aliens charged their device, humans were already adapting. Let them come, Elena broadcast, her confidence rippling through the network of minds. Every weapon they use, every technology they deploy, just gives us more tools to work with. The mothership's weapon fired, a wave of mutagenic energy washing over the planet. But instead of chaos, instead of destruction, something extraordinary happened. Humanity adapted in unison, their shared consciousness allowing them to direct the energy, to shape it, to make it their own. The aliens watched in horror as their ultimate weapon became humanity's greatest catalyst. Across the globe, people weren't just transforming to survive. They were transforming to thrive, developing abilities that transcended the architect's understanding of what was possible. They still don't understand, Elena thought, watching as the mothership frantically charged its engines. They gave us the keys to evolution, but it's our humanity that shows us how to use them. As the alien vessel fled, Alina could feel humanity's consciousness expanding, evolving. They had taken the tools of their would-be conquerors and turned them into something unprecedented, not just physical evolution, but the evolution of human potential itself. The resistance hadn't just survived. They had transcended. The Adaptation Research Center in Geneva hummed with possibility. Once a particle physics laboratory, it now served as humanity's premier facility for exploring their expanding potential. Dr. Elena Santos stood in the observation chamber, watching as volunteers pushed the boundaries of what their new abilities could achieve. Ready for the next trial, Dr. Santos asked Dr. Kenzo Yamamoto, his partially crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. The former quantum physicist had evolved the ability to exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously, allowing him to observe phenomena from multiple dimensions. Proceed. Elena nodded, her enhanced senses monitoring thousands of data points simultaneously. In the chamber below, a team of evolved humans began to demonstrate abilities that would have seemed impossible just months ago. A former artist named Maya demonstrated how she could now manipulate matter at the atomic level, creating new materials by rearranging molecular bonds with thought alone. Beside her, a teenage programmer named Alex had developed the ability to transform his consciousness into pure data, exploring and manipulating the quantum infrastructure of reality itself. "We're not just adapting anymore," Kenzo observed, his quantum-shifted vision tracking the energy patterns. "We're rewriting the rules of what's possible." Elena agreed. The initial transformations had been about survival, adaptations to immediate threats or needs. But as humanity mastered these abilities, they began to understand deeper truths about the nature of existence itself. Each new discovery led to exponential growth in their capabilities. Dr. Santos, Sarah Chen's voice echoed through their shared consciousness network. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple alien fleets approaching, not just the architects, at least 3 different species." Elena wasn't surprised. Their rapid evolution had attracted attention across the galaxy. Some came seeking to study them, others to contain what they saw as a potential threat. None of them understood what humanity was becoming. "Show me," Elena requested, and her consciousness expanded to encompass the sensor data. The approaching fleets were impressive, armed with technologies far beyond Earth's previous capabilities. But humanity had moved beyond the need for conventional technology. In orbit, the first wave of Earth's defenders demonstrated this new reality. They had evolved past the need for spacecraft, their bodies adapting to exist in the vacuum of space naturally. Some had developed the ability to fold space itself, creating shortcuts through reality. Others had transformed into beings of pure energy, capable of interfacing directly with the fundamental forces of the universe. "They still think in terms of weapons and ships," Kenzo mused, watching through his quantum-shifted perception as the alien fleets approached. "They don't understand that we've moved beyond such limitations." A group of children played in the courtyard outside, their games involving casual manipulation of gravity and spontaneous creation of micro-universes. They were the first generation to be born with these abilities fully integrated into their consciousness, and their natural exploration of their potential exceeded anything the adults had imagined. "Dr. Santos," Maya called from the testing chamber, her voice excited. "I think I've figured out something new." As they watched, she demonstrated an ability they had theorized but never achieved: the conscious direction of evolution itself. Not just adaptation to circumstances, but the deliberate creation of new possibilities. The children already do this instinctively, Elena realized, watching as Maya's discovery rippled through the global consciousness network. They don't see limitations, only potential. Alerts flashed as the alien fleets entered the solar system. Their weapons were primed, their sensors scanning Earth for weaknesses. But what they found defied their understanding. Humanity had evolved beyond the need for traditional defenses. The entire planet now existed in a state of quantum flux, simultaneously present and transformed, physical and energy, singular and infinite. Should we show them? Kenzo asked, his crystalline form shimmering with anticipation. Elena smiled, feeling the collective excitement of billions of minds joined in common purpose. Let's show them what evolution really means. As the alien fleets approach, humanity prepared to demonstrate that true evolution wasn't about weapons or defenses. It was about transcending the very concept of limitations. They hadn't just adapted to survive. They had evolved to reimagine the possibilities of existence itself. The universe was about to witness something unprecedented, a species that had taken the catalyst of alien manipulation and transformed it into a key to unlock the fundamental nature of reality itself. Humanity wasn't just changing. They were becoming something the cosmos had never seen before.